Loose neck.
How about her, Terry? Fast talking. What's up, Tina?
What you doing here?
Yeah, dude, just freaking right around, you know?
I don't know. It looks like a bash bar. It smells like candy.
I'm just douching this bumper with a little paint. And then I was listening to the Maximum Driftcast.
Oh.
They were talking a lot of shit about me. To Travis Reeder.
Saying what? That Travis is better?
No, just like they just talk shit. They just
sounds about right. So the people have some questions for you. The people have some questions for me. So today, Dylan and I are doing a Q&A. Someone asked, as of one of the questions, who was gonna get to Pro 2 first. I'm sorry, but you don't know what you're talking about since he is second in points in the championship for Pro 2, and I do not have a pro license. Yeah. So we'll just...
They're late to the game.
It's okay, they'll figure it out soon. They'll know because of this video.
Yeah, right,
got a sweet Pro 3 license.
Hey. Yeah, I got a Pro 3 license. That's what it's about to be. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna get to the questions now.
What's up, guys?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the vlog. So today is a Q&A with Mr. Dylan Hughes, the man himself. He is second in points in the championship in Pro 2, and he's podiumed 8 out of 10 drift events that he's ever done. So you can say he's pretty consistent. Also, FD Irwindale's coming up in about a week and a half. So hopefully he gets that first place finish and gets that championship.
It stresses on, man.
A lot of stress on the shoulders,
dude.
for sure.
That's what we're doing. We're just hustling on the old 240 over here, trying to get her ready. And just got to make sure she's reliable and ready for the last round, because we're trying to take it.
Yep.
It's mine, Travis. Going down.
So the reason for our Q&A is we get a lot of questions all the time, and a lot of people repeat themselves, like not intentionally, but it's just other people asking the same questions. And so we thought we would do this just to give you guys some information and background story on us. And so we posted up on our Instagram stories saying that we're doing a Q&A. If you don't follow us, my Instagram's gonna be right here and his will be right there. And you guys should definitely check our Instagrams out. We're gonna be doing some cool street stuff maybe in the future. He has a cool BMW. I actually had a video on my channel about that, but we're gonna get to the DMs right now. Grab your phone, Mr. Hughes.
Yeah.
And we're gonna fire off some questions and see what you guys had to say.
All right, what do we got going on here?
How do you suggest getting into drifting? What's a decent starter car? That is probably the most asked question.
The most asked question, for sure.
And that's kind of like a preference thing, honestly. For me, I'll answer it and then we'll have Dylan answer it. So like the way that I think the easiest way to get into drifting is obviously you follow drifters on Instagram, and so you see what events they're going to and you try and make it out to some local track events and just meet people. That's the easiest way to just meet people and get some good insight. And then what I would say the best starter car, probably a 350Z. I don't know, I drove a 350Z and they make really good power with like a stock seat. You don't even have to have coilovers. All you have to do is weld the diff and they get down. But I also know BMWs are very well too, and I've never drifted one of those. So let's hear your insight on that.
Definitely nose on point on pretty much all of that. I think that if you're looking to get into it, just punch in your area code, figure out your local drift events, and just literally start going on the track, because the more people you can meet, drifting is just like a big network of people. It's big, but it's small at the same time compared to other sports, you know? So basically just figure out where your local drift events are and just start going out there. Just start meeting people, start talking to people, ask people about their car setups. And that's one of the coolest things. What I still love about going to FD, it's just a traveling circus. It's just a big family. So literally just start going on the track, meet some people, go along for a ride, and I guarantee you once you get in the passenger seat for a ride, you're done. It's over. Like, you're fully hooked. So
dude, 100%.
That's what it took for me.
You just get addicted to it.
I went for a ride and I was like, well, my life is over. Like,
I'm spending all of my money on this now.
RIP bank account.
What about a car?
As far as a car, you know, I would say a 240, but I think that everybody, there's 240 tax that goes along with 240s, because 240s are very popular. So I'd almost steer away from those, just because you can't even get a good one for less than like $6 grand. So
it's true.
I would honestly say E36. E36 or E46, because they're cheap. You can find them, dude. I bought mine with no interior for $1,400 bucks, I think.
That's a lot cheaper than a 350.
I put the interior back in it. I sold the Vader seats out of it that it came with for $600. So then I just bought some seat brackets and all that stuff. And I street drifted the bananas out of that thing when I was back up in Washington. I mean, I would go after work religiously every day in the wet, because it was raining, Seattle, of course. And I religiously street drifted that thing. And honestly, like, the thing would get down. Like,
I've been hearing a lot more about BMW chassis for sure.
Yeah.
People are starting to really say that that's like the next 240, and even in FD you see a lot more people with BMW chassis.
And
like.
with even like as a starter car, they drive really, really well. It's got a front steer rack, they have good caster stock, and then once you start to get to that higher horsepower level, like all you got to do is just put a little bit of toe in the rear end of those things, and you're totally good to go. Like that car can be a grassroots car, and it can be a top level pro car.
That's
so
true.
that's what's cool about those, because it will progress with you.
I agree with that.
You guys afford drifting at a very young age.
We
don't.
That's a
toughie.
That's a tough one. It's just, I don't know. I guess you could say like, it takes a lot of dedication. Like a lot of people don't realize, but like Dylan and I literally spend every dime we make on drifting.
Have rich parents. That's
possible. That's a really easy way.
I don't know. I guess it's just being so committed to the sport that you take every dollar that you make it your full-time job, every ounce of spare time you have, you're working on your car. Every dollar you have goes back into your car. Like people say, oh, you like to do like drifting for fun. I'm like, I wouldn't even call it fun. Obviously it is fun, but like it's a lifestyle. Like it's not just, it is my life. Like I wake up in the morning, first thing I think about before I go to bed.
It never stops.
It never stops.
There's always more that you could be doing, and that's like, that's how you get far, I feel like, in the sport, is knowing that you have to know in the back of your head that you could have done something more. Like you could, like, what more could you have done that day? What more is on the list? And and like he said, it's like you wake up, you're thinking about drifting, you go to sleep, you're thinking about drifting. Like, what can I do to my car next? And how can I afford to go to the track next? What's the soonest event I can get to?
Right.
And so
honestly, I think that one of the things that everybody gets hung up on is the car. Like everybody's like, you know, I like to post about my car on Instagram, and it's all like chopped up and tube this, tube that, custom this, custom that. Don't get so caught up in that. That just comes with progression. Starting off with a totally stock car, like don't even bother cutting the front end of it off. Don't even bother doing a tube front until you hit some stuff. Like it's gonna happen. Drifting is, you're gonna hit stuff whether you want to or not. It's a when, not an if. So I would say don't get so caught up in building the car. Don't look at it as like, oh, I need like 75 grand to build this car, 50 grand to build this car. Just take it in steps. Get the car. Okay, sick. This thing drives. Okay, cool. Coilovers, like $1,000, you know, for some BC coilovers or whatever. Okay, like that's one step. Maybe you could do that in 1 month or 2 months, and then a little bit down the road, you save up a couple $100, you throw a hydro in it. Like, don't just go like 0 to 10 out of 10 build. Just progress with your car. That's one of the things that I would stress the most, and that's how you keep it somewhat cheap too.
Yeah, and that like with my FD, I don't have a tube front end on my car, and it's something that I've like always wanted, but at the same time, I haven't had a need for it. The rear end on my car is tubed with a fuel cell, but that is only because I did hit it into a wall. I didn't just do it. I waited until I smacked that bitch up into a wall, and I was like, well, it's time for a fuel cell.
And then you don't have a choice, and then you have to do it. You have to figure it out.
Exactly.
So, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if your frame rails are straight, if the back end of your car is straight, leave it, dude. Just spend your money on a seat or a hydro or a wheel.
Seat time. Just
seat time.
Yeah. Like, once you get the basics done to your car, that's the most important thing. That's what every driver talks about, is they wish that they could go drive more, because it costs so much money to do, and like that little bit of time that you get, you just want more and you want more, and that's what like keeps that drive, I feel like, is because we can't do it all the time.
Right. It's not like playing soccer. You can't just grab a ball and go and kick it in your front yard. It's like a full commitment to go to the track and go drifting. So
it's for sure.
Seat time is everything.
Is your goal to be an FD driver? So that question's for me, since Dylan obviously is one. That's kind of like up in the air. It was my original plan to be an FD driver when I first got into drifting, and that's why I got the car that I got and went to Pro-Am right away and just started practicing just to get my FD license. But I've kind of like, I want my FD license still. That's something I still would like to have, but it's not my main priority. My main priority is just to like, obviously make my sponsors happy and get out there and meet as many people like you, and get myself to as many events as possible, instead of like just spending all my money on 4 events a year and not being able to get more exposure for myself. So I think I'm gonna be taking this next year off of Pro-Am if I can't make it work, but I'm gonna try my hardest, but we'll see. It's kind of, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, like whatever, it's not the end of the world, because I'm still having fun driving my car.
Well, and with you, the social media aspect of it, it's changing so fast that you would say probably 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, you'd be like, yes, like I want to be known as a drifter. I need to go pro. Like that's what you have to do. Like with YouTube and with Instagram and these other social media platforms, like you don't necessarily have to become a pro Formula D driver to be a very well-known name in the drifting community. Exactly. Like you look at guys, Adam LZ, TJ Hunt. Neither one of those bros compete in FD, but they are absolutely killing it. So. FD is really, really expensive, like to be completely honest with you. So that's one of the things, is you have to factor that in. So it's like, there's just different ways of going about it. I chose to do FD because I absolutely live for the competition. I love it, I love it, I love it. But I hate the fact that it costs so much. Like I would rather go to the track and make a YouTube video, you know what I mean? But it's just, there's 2 different ways to go about it, you know what I mean? So if you Noah's in a great position because he's very well known and he's not at year 18 like you, and that hasn't come from competing, you know what I mean?
Not at all.
And if you keep doing your thing, and you could still grow and grow and grow over here and never touch a drift competition, you know,
exactly.
or not, you know, an
yeah,
empty
no,
competition.
yeah,
So
I know what you mean. Yeah.
There's a couple different ways to go about it.
Yeah, exactly like what you said. There's different ways to go about it, and like that's what's cool about social media nowadays is you don't have to be the best driver to get sponsors and get more exposure for yourself. And that's what's awesome is like you don't have to be James Dean, like who James Dean is. He is, I would say, the best driver in the world and he absolutely kills it. But you could be someone else like TJ Hunt or Adam LZ and have the same fan base, if not bigger, and they don't do FD like at all. They just they just make YouTube videos and have fun drifting.
And if you think about what James Dean would spend on a season, an FD season, for the amount of social media coverage that he gets, and you think about TJ Hunt going to the track, you know, throwing his car in an open trailer, doesn't bring any spares because if he breaks, he just goes home. You know, as opposed to like a full FD program, like James probably spends this much a weekend, TJ probably spends this much a weekend, and then like the social media aspect of it is flopped. You know what I mean? Interesting one.
Oh,
this is a good one. This is a good one. So. Loose neck rotary boy over here. Tommy said, who has the better car, rotary or piston? Which sort of doesn't make sense, Tommy, but
come on, Tommy.
I think that what he meant was, which do you prefer, rotary or piston? So I'm gonna go ahead and fire it over to Loose Neck here because I think I know which way. I think I know which way we're gonna go with this.
I mean, he has a V8 for a reason, and I have a rotary for a reason. They're both on the opposite sides of the spectrum, and that's just because drifting is one of those things that are it's so diverse. Like you can have two different platforms and still have the same amount of fun.
Right. Well, and that goes back to the last question, is like the whole competition aspect of it. Like Hot Boy Rotary Disco Dorito Bro over here, that thing belches flames and makes everybody all sorts of happy. And I got a big lame V8, but man, mine sure does compete well, but man, his sure does sound good.
Yeah,
you know? So it's like, what are you going for, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so like me, I like the show factor. I like when it backfires, shoots flames, people get super excited, it just screams, and then his car can be on anybody's door with half the horsepower. And so like that's what's cool about how he has his car set up, and it's for competition, like you said.
It's just aiming for that like somewhat robot consistency. Like to do well in competition drifting, you have to be insanely consistent. So if one time you go back to the gas off of a handbrake drag and the turbo isn't there on the rotary car, and then it's lit back up, all of a sudden the car in front is gone. You know? So I just need that torque of the V8, and that's why I chose it. So, and that's also why the BMW is getting a 2J at some point. I promise you.
2J or 1J? It's a JZ.
Any sort of J. Inline 6-cylinder of some sort.
Why are you so sexy? I don't know. I can't tell you that.
It's just how I was born. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
I just like kind of like a loose neck and like he's kind of like turkey built, so I think that's the difference.
He's sort of a big body ass, turkey belt looking, helmet head ass.
This is probably for like both of us, mostly you though, since you've been in FD. When you guys battle drivers that you know are very good, what keeps you guys from letting the nerves take over and instead keeping focused on driving your best and hardest?
That's a tough one, man. That's $1 million question right there.
I know what I want to say, so you go for it.
Yeah,
you know?
I would say just a confidence thing. Like if you're stressed out about like, oh, this dude's gonna door me everywhere, or like, oh, I'm like scared, or like, he's gonna like do better than me, just try your best to put all that stuff aside and just like have the confidence, like this dude doesn't even deserve to line up on the track with me, like I'm so much better than him. And I think just having that confidence is one of the biggest things that you can have. So I'm curious what you're going to say.
Not so much confidence on my side. It's more like, since I don't have as much experience in competition drifting, I feel like I'm always the underdog when I go into top 16. Like I'm like, oh, am I gonna make it? And one of the things that, like, I don't really know what it is. I like put the car in gear, and as soon as I floor it, my mind's just empty. It's blank. Like I just floor it and just whap, 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 go through the gears and throw it in, and I just think about driving. Just think about doing my normal qualifying run, and it works sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I definitely need more seat time though. That's what it comes down to. Like we were saying earlier, seat time is the thing, and it just is so expensive. But when you get to be a good driver like Dylan, it makes it fun because you can go to every event and just wreck people.
Devon said, you guys gonna build new chassis or run your Pro 2 car? Which sort of doesn't make sense either, but that's okay. I understand.
We know what you mean, yeah.
Sounds like, would you build a new chassis when you get your Pro 2 license? And then maybe once I get up to Pro 1, would I build a new chassis for that? So,
me, I would probably. That would be another RX-7 FD for sure, just because I like the cool factor. Like, I don't necessarily it sounds weird, but I don't necessarily care about winning as much as I do as like care about making like a show and being like, yo, he's here, like, you know what I mean? And like,
it goes back to the rotary shooting flame.
Exactly. Like, I just like the pops and like just the show factor. People are like, oh my god, that car's so sick. So I'd probably build another FD. And what about you? What would you do?
You know, I think that if I were to retire this chassis, it was because I wrecked it like real hard. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
like,
like,
you just add power.
I would honestly run it because I've been driving this. This is my very first drift car. I've been driving this thing since, you know, whatever, bunch of years now, and I like the way that it feels and it drives great, and there would be no reason for me to build a new chassis because there are 240s that do very well in Pro 1. You know, you put a bunch more power and a big tire on this thing, like it could run with those other, like with the big guys. Like an S15 is the same thing basically.
It's an S chassis. Yeah.
It's an S chassis. So this thing could be good to go and run Pro 1, obviously with more power, but if and when potentially I wreck it, I would probably go to an E46.
Really? I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason being, my buddy AJ, he has a really gangster E46 that I've never driven one with power before. Like I've street drifted my E36. They're basically the same thing, whatever. But I drove his car and he has the turbo BMW motor and it does like 6 and some change to the tires, and I was like blown away at what one of those chassis feels like with power. And I was like, oh crap, like I have to compete against this, you know what I mean? So like just feeling that from the driver's seat in my buddy AJ's car was like one of the biggest things, because I was like, okay, like this thing gets down, like the thing hits boost and it's got that trailing arm for the rear suspension, it's like whap, it just goes, and I was like, I really like the feeling of that.
That's cool.
So yeah, probably an E46, and they look cool, newer chassis.
That's true. Yeah. So there's one for me. I'm just gonna answer this one quick. What's the history of your FD? So my FD was ran in Formula Drift back in 2005 to 2008, I believe. And it was a Falcon tire car that they had like an arrive and drive deal with other drivers. And I came about it because of Instagram. I found it for sale through someone, through like some other guy that some other people knew that drifted, and it was just random when I was like ready to buy a car. And bought the car from them, and that's pretty much how I got it. It needed a lot of work, which I did put a lot of work into it, and it's pretty cool now. I mean, it's still on the same motor. It's been 2 years at over 500 horsepower, and people think rotaries are unreliable, but if you have Abel Ibarra tune your engines and work on them, then they will last, and I promise you.
Shout out.
Okay, so
and something else that's funny about your car.
Yeah. We
were at the drag strip with Chris Forsberg the other day, and he was like, "Hey, you're because he like just met Noah and whatever." He's like, "Hey, you're that dude who's got the old Falcon car, right?" So Chris was telling us a bunch of stories about how he made the headlight brackets on it, and he used to like drive it, and that car actually did the sound for Tokyo Drift. Yeah. Which so his car's got some really cool history behind it.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah. What got you guys into drifting? So let's try and get this one quick though, because that's a hard one. I know that could be a long story.
Basically, hillbilly activities back up in Washington State where I'm from. It was like a couple of my buddies had like a 5.0 Mustang, and they're just like whipping donuts in it. You know, those things sound okay, like stock, just with that V8 in it. And they like took me for a ride up his driveway, which had some twisties in it. And literally, I went for a ride, and that was it. That was it. It
always starts with donuts.
It always starts with donuts.
For me, I was at, I always loved cars, and I was at the skate park one day, and I always knew I wanted a cool car, but didn't really know too much about drifting, and someone had a 240, and it had an SR20 in it, and they revved it up, and it had a blow-off valve, and that was like sex to my ears.
You know, like the squeak one, the whistle one?
Yeah. And so I was just like, all right, yep, that's the coolest thing ever. And then he actually let me get in the car with him, and he did some donuts, and I was just like, the smell of tire smoke and all of this together is like the best thing in the world. And it took me 2 years to get my car, but I got it, and I'm sticking with it probably for the rest of my life.
It all starts with a donut.
Dude, it really does. So a lot of people have been asking why Z-Jack and I don't hang out. And so someone asked, what's up with you and Z-Jack? We all want to know. I'm not going to really go into specifics with it, but just some weird things happened, and like, we're cool, but just not as good of friends as we used to be. Like, I live in a different place now, and it's just, I don't know, it's kind of a weird subject to talk about, but yeah, I know you guys have all been wondering, but yeah, it's just some stuff happened, doesn't really matter, it's in the back of my mind, I don't even think about it anymore. But on a good note, what's the next one that you had?
Corey, period 240, how does self-taught fab mechanic make it to your level with no backing sponsors?
You have backing sponsors now.
This is my first year. So the biggest thing was when I got into this, my goal was always to drive. And I've been working as a mechanic for Chris Forsberg this is my 5th year. So I got into it wanting to drive, and I told Chris from day one that if I get an opportunity to drive, I'm going to take it. So honestly, it was basically just like sort of right place, right time, meeting Chris. He needed a mechanic, started working for him, and basically just bust my ass for 4 years. Moving all over the country. I'm from Washington, moved to Baltimore, Maryland, moved back to Washington, Oregon area, now down to Southern California. So it is just the relentless charge of just working hard and just spending all your money on the drifting and just being around it. Obviously going to the track with Forsberg all the time, and we've done some crazy stuff together and had a great time. Obviously knowing somebody like that helps, but it's just being in it, going to the track, meeting people, networking, you know, going to SEMA, trying to find sponsors, just a little bit here, a little bit there. It's amazing. Basically, it's all just comes from talking to people. You just meet people and then you like work something out. Like that's basically the biggest thing.
And it just comes back to like what we were saying in the beginning, like you did everything you could to drive. You were moving around the country to be able to afford to drive and putting yourself in the right position and just like stuff like that. Like he was doing everything he could, like you said, and now he's in Southern California, and I get to hang out with him.
I remember being 18 years old. I was sitting at my dad's fire station. My dad's a fireman, and I was just sitting there looking at 240SX videos, and I was obsessed with the LS motor. And I just remember I was like, I wanted an LS 240 more than anything, anything in the world. More than anything in the world, I was like, I'd bite my finger off right now for one. And then like it's just constant progression. It's just never giving up on that dream. And it's just like now I have a V8 240, and now I want other things. You know, it's just like
never stops.
Just never ever give up on it. You know what I mean? Like there'll be ups and downs, and that's what drifting is. It's just a big roller coaster, and just never ever give up on it. That's the biggest thing.
Okay, someone actually just sent me this within the last 2 minutes. For Noah, what size are your front wheels on the FD? I have an FD3S I'm building for Pro-Am with WiseFab as well, and have the worst clearance issues. WiseFab is gonna make you have horrible clearance issues. I'm sorry, dude. Yeah. But that's why my fenders are cut, and you can literally fit a fist in between my wheel and my fender, because no one likes to make cool fenders like 240s for WiseFab specifically. And so the sizes that I run are 17 by 9 plus 33. I believe that's like the most aggressive offset I could get, and those are NK RPF ones.
So interesting with the 17 in the front.
Yeah, 17. That's also, I actually learned that from James Dean because I DM'd him and he told me that. So thank you, James Dean, for replying, because not a lot of people like to reply to DMs, and I was really surprised when he did reply to me.
Yeah, he's pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people run 17s up front, and literally it's just because you can run, it's a smaller wheel, you can put a smaller tire on it, same amount of sticky tire, it's just a little bit smaller, so you can have that clearance for all that room for the angle.
Yeah, it's another inch, a whole another inch. It's a big deal.
A lot of people run 17s drifting. I got 18s on my car, but I got big fenders for it, because luckily it's a 240.
That's true. Snack.
And then Richard.
Okay, fire it up.
So, looks like my buddy Travis Reeder, who's the one who's beating me.
Fucking Travis.
The hell with you, bud. Love this guy, but whatever. He said, why is Noah so out of shape? It's my... Anyway, I'll keep going. Why is Noah so out of shape? I mean, I know dad bods are in and all, but he really let himself go. Well, Trav, that's an awesome... That's an awesome...
I'm a fat tuna. I don't know what to say.
I don't know why, but I started giving no shit about being fat.
I'm not fat.
He's obviously not.
I'm not fat.
It's just been this ongoing joke that Loose Neck...
Started in Washington.
Yeah, Loose Neck over here is fat and overweight, so...